Good evening, football fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday, September 30th, 2025, and welcome to the Week 4 edition of the week that was. As we'll be taking a look at all the team and individual statistical numbers from every game from Week 4 in the NFL season. And as always, stay tuned until the end for my Week 5 power rankings. Those are coming up at the end, so again, stay tuned. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. And here we go with the Week 4 edition of the week that was. Starting off with Thursday Night Football, as the Seattle Seahawks defeated the Arizona Cardinals 23-20. With the win, the Seahawks moved to 3-1, and the Cardinals fall back to 500 at 2-2. So that's back-to-back losses after a 2-0 start. All right, we'll begin with individual numbers. First for the Seahawks. Sam Darnold was 18-26 for 242 yards with a touchdown and no interceptions and a 111.4 QB rating. Leading rusher was Kenneth Walker III, 19 carries, 81 yards, averaging 4.3. Also, Zach Charbonnet, 12 carries, 39 yards, and a touchdown. He averaged 3.3 per run. On the receiving side, Jackson Smith-Njigba, 4 catches, 79 yards on 5 targets, averaging 19.8. And then you've got Elijah Arroyo, 2 catches, 44 yards on 4 targets, and a 22 average. And A.J. Barner, with 3 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets. He averaged 10.7. Jason Myers, 3 for 4 on field goals. Long field goal was 52, and 2 for 2 on extra points. Michael Dixon, 3 punts, averaging 49, long punt of 54, with a touchback. All right, defensively for the Seahawks, your leading tacklers include Devin Witherspoon, with 9 tackles, half a sack, and a pass defense. Ernest Jones IV had 8 tackles, half a sack, 1 pass defense, and an interception. Julian Love, 6 solo tackles, and a pass defense. Josh Jobe, 5 tackles, half a sack, and a pass defense. Drake Thomas had 5 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Uchenna Nwosu finishes with 5 tackles and 2 sacks. And Leonard Williams had 4 tackles, 1.5 sack, and a pass defense for the Seahawks. For the Cardinals, Kyler Murray was 27-41 for 200 yards with 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 73.2 QB rating. Yo, Chad, what's going on, man? Murray was also Arizona's leading rusher with 5 carries, 41 yards. He averaged 8.2 per run. Trey Benson, 8 carries, 35 yards, and a 4.4 average. They will have to run the ball now that James Conner is out for the season. Cardinals receivers were led by Marvin Harrison Jr., 6 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets, averaging 11 per catch. Trey McBride, 7 catches, 52 yards on 11 targets, and a 7.4 average. Greg Dortch, 4 for 35 on 5 targets and an 8.8 average. And then Amari DeMarcado, 2 catches, 13 yards, and a touchdown on 2 targets. He averaged 6.5 per grab. Chad Ryland was 2 for 2 on field goals. Long was 57 and 2 for 2 on extra points. Blake Gillikin, 4 punts, averaging 50.5, long punt of 63, with 3 punts inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for Arizona include Akeem Davis Gaither with 10 tackles. Jalen Thompson with 9 tackles. Dadron Taylor Demerson had 8 tackles. And Mack Wilson Sr. had 7 tackles. Total yards were 384 for the Seahawks and 253 for the Cardinals. Passing yards favored the Seahawks, 229 to 164. Rush yards also favored the Seahawks at 155 to 89. Seattle had 20 first downs versus 18 for Arizona. On third down, the Seahawks were 6 of 13, and the Cards were 6 of 15. On fourth down, Seattle finished 0 for 1, while Arizona was 1 for 1. 6 penalties, 74 yards for the Seahawks, 3 sacks taken for 13 with 1 lost fumble and no interceptions thrown. 7 penalties, 46 yards for the Cardinals, 6 sacks taken for 36 with no lost fumbles and 2 interceptions thrown. Hey, what up, Bryce? How you doing? Time of possession, 32 minutes, 24 seconds for the Seahawks, 27 minutes, 36 seconds for the Cardinals. Closing line was Seattle -1, over-under was 43.5, and they just missed the total by that half a point. I took the Seahawks to win and to cover, so I start the week off great. 1-0 straight up and 1-0 against the spread. Now to Sunday, starting off with the second of 7 international games in 2025, which sees the Minnesota Vikings lose their first ever game in Europe in 5 tries as they fall short of the Pittsburgh Steelers when losing 24 to 21. All right, so Pittsburgh improves to 3-1 while Minnesota drops to 2-2. Oh, I'm good. I'm real good, Bryce. Got a bit of a late start getting these videos out the way. All right, individual numbers first up for the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers was 18 of 22 for 200 yards with a touchdown and no interceptions. He had a 119.7 passer rating. The leading rusher for the Steelers was Kenneth Gainwell, 19 carries, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns, averaging 5.2 per run. Leading receivers for the Steelers include DK Metcalf, 5 catches, 126 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets. He averaged 25.2 yards per catch. The aforementioned Kenneth Gainwell added 6 catches for 35 yards on 6 targets and a 5.8 average. And Darnell Washington had 3 catches, 20 yards on 3 targets, averaging 6.7. Chris Boswell 1 for 2 on field goals, long field goal of 33, and he was 3 for 3 on extra points. Corliss Waitman with 3 punts, averaging 48.7, long punt 54, with 1 touchback. Leading the Steelers defense, you've got Peyton Wilson with 13 tackles, including 8 solo tackles. Patrick Queen had 11 tackles and a sack. Deshaun Elliott, he had himself a great game with 6 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, 2 passes defensed, and an interception. Darius Slay, 5 tackles. TJ Watt, 5 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, or rather a pass defense, I should say, and an interception. And Nate Herbig with 5 tackles and 1.5 sacks. On the Vikings side, Carson Wentz went 30 of 46 for 350 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions with an 84.5 QB rating. Leading rusher for the Vikings is Jordan Mason, 16 carries, 57 yards, and a 3.6 average. Leading receivers for Minnesota include Justin Jefferson, 10 catches, 126 yards on 11 targets, and a 12.6 average. Jordan Addison, 4 catches, 114 on 8 targets, and a 28.5 average. Xavier Scott, 6 catches, 43 yards, and a touchdown on 8 targets, average of 7.2. TJ Hawkinson, 4 for 39 on 5 targets and a 9.8 average. And Jalen Nailor, his 1 catch went for a 2-yard touchdown, and he was targeted 4 times. Will Reichard went 2 for 2 on field goals, long field goal of 41, and 1 for 1 on extra points. And Ryan Wright had 3 punts, averaging 45.3 with a long of 49. Leading tacklers for the Vikings include Eric Wilson and Josh Metellus, each with 9 tackles. Javon Hargrave, 5 tackles. Byron Murphy Jr. also had 5 tackles. Likewise for Jonathan Allen. Jalen Redmond had 7 tackles, or rather 3 tackles, and 2 sacks. And Ivan Pace Jr. had 7 tackles for the Vikings. Total yards, Vikings 372, Steelers 313. Passing yards favored Minnesota 302 to 182. Rush yards favored Pittsburgh 131 to 70. 23 first downs for the Vikings versus 19 for the Steelers. Minnesota was 4 of 14 on 3rd down and 2 of 3 on 4th down, while Pittsburgh was 4 of 10 on 3rd down and 0 for 1 on 4th down. 8 penalties, 82 yards for the Vikings, 6 sacks taken for 48. They technically had 7, with no lost fumbles and 2 interceptions thrown. 5 penalties, 35 yards for the Steelers, 2 sacks taken for 18, with no lost fumbles and no interceptions thrown. Time of possession is 33 minutes, 34 seconds for the Vikings, 26 minutes, 26 seconds for the Steelers. Closing line was Minnesota minus 2.5, over under is 41.5. I took the Vikings to win and to cover. Lost both picks, so I'm even in both my straight up and ATS picks at 1-1. Alright, moving to the traditional Sunday afternoon schedule, beginning with the New England Patriots hammering the Carolina Panthers 42-13 to even their record at 2-2. Meanwhile, the Panthers dropped back to 1-3. We'll begin with individual numbers first for the Patriots. Drake May was 14 of 17 for 203 yards with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 155.6 QB rating. That's a near perfect rating. Josh Dobbs attempted a pass for no yards and at a 39.6 QB rating. Leading rushers for the Patriots include Ramondre Stevenson, 9 carries, 38 yards, and a 4.2 average. Travion Henderson, this is the rookie running back from Ohio State, 7 carries, 32 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 4.6. Antonio Gibson, who is their 3rd string running back, he had 6 carries, 27 yards, and a touchdown, and a 4.5 average. Meanwhile, Drake May added 3 carries, 11 yards, and a rushing touchdown, averaging 3.7. Leading receivers for New England include Stephon Diggs, 6 catches, 101 yards on 7 targets, and a 16.8 average. Hunter Henry, 2 catches, 39 yards, and a touchdown on 2 targets, and a 19.5 average. And Mac Hollins caught a touchdown pass for New England. Alright. No field goals attempted by Andy Borgelis, but he was 6 for 6 on extra points. Bryce Behringer finished the day with 4 punts at 51.3 on average. His long punt was 59. with 2 inside the 20-yard line. Defensively for the Patriots, your leading tacklers include Jack Gibbons with 12 tackles, Robert Spillane with 10 tackles, Craig Woodson, 5 tackles and a pass defense. Christian Ellis had 9 tackles, and Del Pettis had 4 tackles and a forced fumble. Clavon Chiasson had 2 solo tackles and a sack for the Patriots. For the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young was 18 of 30 for 150 yards with 1 touchdown and no interceptions. He had an 84 QB rating. Andrew Dalton came in during garbage time and went 5 for 6 for 58 yards and a touchdown with a 146.5 QB rating. Chuba Hubbard was the Panthers' leading rusher, 10 carries, 49 yards, and a 4.9 average. And Trevor Etienne, 7 carries, 33 yards, and a 4.7 average. This, of course, is the younger brother of Travis Etienne from the Jaguars. And Rico Dowdle, 9 carries, 32 yards, and a 3.6 average. Leading receivers for the Panthers include Tataroa McMillan. Let me get back in here. All right, Tataroa McMillan among the leading receivers for the Panthers. 4 catches, 62 yards on 8 targets and a 15.5 average. Next up is Tommy Tremble. 5 catches, 42 yards, and a touchdown on 8 targets and an 8.4 average. Bryson Tremaine, 3 catches, 36 yards on 4 targets and a 12 average. Mitchell Evans with 3 catches, 23 yards, and a TD on 4 targets, averaging 7.7. And Chuba Hubbard, 3 catches, 20 yards on 3 targets, averaging 6.7. Ryan Fitzgerald, 0 for 1 on field goals, 1 for 2 on extra points. Sam Martin, 5 punts, averaging 46.2, long punt of 55 with 1 touchback and 1 punt inside the 20. Leading tacklers for the Panthers include Nick Scott. He had 6 tackles. A'Shawn Robinson also had 6 tackles. You have 5 tackles from Trevin Wallace, plus a pass defense. 5 tackles and a sack for Tershawn Wharton. And Nick Scrouton have 3 tackles. Total yards, Carolina 326, New England 307. Passing yards slightly favored the Patriots, 203 to 197. Rush yards is the edge for the Carolina Panthers, 129 to 104. Same with first downs. Carolina had 21 while New England had 16. The Panthers 5 of 14 on 3rd down and 1 of 3 on 4th down, while the Patriots were 3 for 9 on 3rd down and 1 for 1 on 4th down. 5 penalties, 29 yards for the Panthers, 1 sack taken for 11. 7 penalties, 54 yards for the Patriots, and 1 sack taken for no loss. Neither team lost a fumble, and neither team threw an interception. All right. The Carolina Panthers went into ball hawk territory as they possessed for 35 minutes and 14 seconds, while the Patriots had the ball for 24 minutes and 46 seconds. Now, let me explain what a ball hawk is in case you're new to the channel. A ball hawk is a team that possesses the football for at least 35 minutes, win or lose. So there it is, the definition of a ball hawk. Closing line was Minnesota or rather New England minus 5.5, and the over-under was 42.5. I took the Patriots to win and cover. Won both picks. I am now 2-1, both straight up and against the spread. Moving on to the Detroit Lions. Now 3 straight wins since that awful game in Green Bay. The Lions dominate the Cleveland Browns 34-10 to move to 3-1 on the season, while the Browns, still owners of the NFL's top-rated defense, falls to 1-3. All right, individual numbers first up for the Lions. Jared Goff was 16 of 27 for 168 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception and an 86.7 QB rating. Jahmyr Gibbs led the way in rushing for Detroit, 15 carries, 91 yards, and a touchdown and a 6.1 average. While his partner in crime, David Montgomery, was held to 9 carries, 12 yards, and only a 1.3 average. Leading receivers for the Lions include Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 catches, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 7 targets, average of 10. Jameson Williams, 2 catches, 40 yards on 8 targets, and an average of 20. And Sam Laporta, 3 catches, 39 yards on 4 targets, and an average of 13. Jake Bates, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 58, and 4 for 4 on extra points. And Jack Fox with 5 punts, averaging 44.2, long punt of 53. All 5 of his punts ended up inside the 20-yard line. So that's a good day for Jack Fox. Leading tacklers for the Lions include Jack Campbell, whose breakout season continues with 11 tackles. Next is Alex Anzalone with 6 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Terrion Arnold also with 6 tackles. Brian Branch with 5 tackles and 3 passes defense. Aiden Hutchinson, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. And then DJ Reed. He had 4 tackles, 3 passes defense, and an interception. Kirby Joseph also recorded an interception in this game. And it looks like DJ Reed may be headed to injured reserve. At least that's according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. He did suffer a hamstring injury and may miss some time. So that will be a huge loss for this Lions secondary. For the Cleveland Browns, Joe Flacco, another bad game for him. 16 of 34, 184 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 39.3 passer rating. He would be benched and replaced with Dylan Gabriel, who went 0 for 1 and a 39.6 QB rating. Leading rusher for the Browns is Quinshon Judkins, and he was pretty much the entire rushing attack for Cleveland. 21 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 3.9. Leading receivers for the Browns include Isaiah Bond, 3 catches, 58 yards on 6 targets, and a 19.3 average. Jerry Jeudy, 3 catches, 48 yards on 9 targets, and a 16 average. And the aforementioned Quinshon Judkins, with 4 catches, 33 yards on 4 targets. He averaged 8.3 per catch. Andre Smith, it's spelled S-Z-M-Y-T. I'm always butchering his last name, but we'll move on. He was 1 for 2 on field goals, long attempt of 33, and 1 for 1 on extra points. Corey Bojorquez, 7 punts, averaging 44.9. Long punt of 47. 4 of those punts inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Browns include Devin Bush, former Michigan Wolverine, with 9 tackles. Ronnie Hickman followed suit with 9 tackles as well. Rookie Carson Schlesinger from UCLA had 8 tackles, and Grant Delpit had 5 tackles. Really not a lot of offense to speak of in this game. 277 yards for the Lions and 249 yards for the Browns. Cleveland holds the slight edge in passing with 170 yards to 168. Rush advantage goes to Detroit, 109 to 79. Both teams finished with 16 first downs. On third down, the Browns were 3 of 14, Lions 6 of 14. And on fourth down, the Browns were 1 for 1 and the Lions 0 for 1. 6 penalties, 44 yards for Cleveland, 3 sacks taken for 14, 1 lost fumble, and 2 interceptions thrown. And 6 penalties, 35 yards for Detroit. No sacks taken, no lost fumbles, and 1 interception thrown. Time of possession favored the Browns, 31 minutes, 44 seconds versus 28 minutes, 16 seconds for the Lions. Closing line was Detroit minus 10, over under 44.5. I picked the Lions to win and the Lions to cover, and nearly got the final score correct. I predicted 31-14 and finished 34-10. But either way, I am now 3-1 in my straight up picks and 3-1 in my spread picks. A quarter of the way through the week 4 slate. Our next game is the upset of the week as the New York Giants defeat the Los Angeles Chargers 21-18 to get their first win of 2025. They are now 1-3. And the Chargers suffer their first loss of the season, dropping to 3-1. Now, this win does come at a price for the New York Giants. I'll tell you about it shortly. We'll start with their individual numbers, beginning with Jackson Dart, who is now the new starter in New York after replacing Russell Wilson. Dart in his NFL debut went 13 of 20 for 111 yards with 1 touchdown and no interceptions and a 96 QB rating. Russell Wilson did come in this game briefly and went 1 for 1 for 8 yards and a 100 passer rating. Leading rushers for the Giants include Arizona State rookie Cam Skattebo, 25 carries, 79 yards, and a 3.2 average. Jackson Dart added 10 carries, 54 yards, and a touchdown, plus a 5.4 average. And Devin Singletary with 7 carries, 28 yards. He averaged 4 yards per run. Leading receivers for New York include Darius Slayton, 3 catches, 44 yards on 4 targets, 14.7 average. And then Malik Nabers, 2 catches, 20 yards on 3 targets, and a 10 average. He did leave this game. I think he had a torn ACL. It doesn't tell me here on the Sports Alerts app, but he is injured and is expected to miss the rest of the season. So that's a big loss for the Giants. Meanwhile, Theo Johnson had 3 catches, 17 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets, averaging 5.7. Yeah, Malik Nabers is out for the season. That's a huge, huge loss for them. Jude McAtee, Tammy, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. 2 for 2 on extra, or 2 for 2 on field goals, rather, long of 31, and 1 for 1 on extra points. Ooh, that sucks. He was on your fantasy team. Now you got to do it out on the rest of the year. That sucks, man. Jamie Gillen, 5 punts averaging 48.8, long punt of 69, 3 punts inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Giants include Darius Malsall, 6 tackles, Cordell Flott, 5 solo tackles. Brian Burns, 5 tackles and a sack. Kayvon Thibodeau, 2 solo tackles and a sack. And then you got Drew Phillips, that's DRU, Drew Phillips. 2 solo tackles, 4 passes defensed, and an interception. And for the previously unbeaten Chargers, Justin Herbert, just a rough day at the office. 23 of 41, 203 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a 57.3 QB rating. Leading rusher for LA is rookie Omarion Hampton out of UNC. 12 carries, 128 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 10.7 per run. Leading receivers for the Chargers include Quentin Johnston, 8 catches, 98 yards, and a touchdown on 13 targets, averaging 12.3. Keenan Allen, 5 catches, 37 yards on 7 targets, and a 7.4 average. Same exact stats for Omarion Hampton, 5 catches, 37 yards, and a 7.4 average. He had 5 targets in this game. Cameron Dicker, also known as Dicker the Kicker. 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 43. 1 for 1 on extra points. J.K. Scott, 5 punts, averaging 48.8, long punt of 60 with 3 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Chargers include Troy Dye with 13 tackles, including 10 assisted. Deion Henley had 9 tackles. And then we come to my defensive player of the week, Tuli Tuipulotu. He had 10 tackles, 4 sacks, that's right, 4 sacks, and a forced fumble. And Derwin James had 8 tackles and half a sack. Total yards, 338 for the Chargers, 250 for the Giants. Rush yards, or passing yards rather, is 186 for LA, 89 for New York. The Giants held the advantage in rushing, 161 to 152. They also held the advantage in first downs, 20 to 17. The Chargers were 4 for 12 on third down with no fourth downs. And the Giants were 7 of 15 on third down and 0 for 1 on fourth down. 14 penalties, 107 yards for the Chargers, 2 sacks taken for 17, no lost fumbles, and 2 interceptions thrown. Oh, it is a torn ACL. That's what I suspected. Thanks, Bryce. 8 penalties, 43 yards for the Giants, 6 sacks taken for 30, no lost fumbles, and no interceptions thrown. The Giants are in ball hawk territory as they held the ball for 35 minutes and 28 seconds, while the Chargers only have possession for 24 minutes and 32 seconds. Closing line was Los Angeles minus 5.5, and the over-under was 42. I did pick the Chargers both ways, and I lost both ways, so now I'm 3-2 straight up and against the spread. Okay, my next game is my lock of the week, but unfortunately, with the point spread, it did not come to fruition once again. I'm kind of struggling against the spread with my lock of the week. Now 1-3 after the Buffalo Bills defeated the New Orleans Saints 31-19. And the Bills officially become the first team in the NFL to a 4-0 record, while the Saints remain winless. They are 0-4, but they have been playing teams tough, so give them credit. Alright, individual numbers first for the Bills, starting with Josh Allen. 16 of 22, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 113.6 QB rating. Leading rushers include James Cook, 22 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 5.3. And the aforementioned Josh Allen, adding 7 rushes for 45 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Leading receivers for Buffalo include Khalil Shakir, 5 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets. Keon Coleman, 3 catches, 45 yards on 4 targets. Shakir averaged 13.8, while Coleman averaged 15. Dalton Kincaid, only 1 catch on 2 targets for 28 yards, but it went for a touchdown. And obviously 28 is his average. Matt Prater, 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 35, and 4 for 4 on extra points. And Cameron Johnston, 2 punts, averaging 41.5, with a long punt of 43. Leading tacklers for the Bills include Tre'Davious White with 7 solo tackles. Terrell Bernard had 6 tackles. Cole Bishop, 5 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Dorian Williams had 6 tackles, and you had 4 solo tackles apiece from Christian Benford, Taron Johnson, and Dorian Strong. For the winless Saints, Spencer Rattler, now 0-10 as a starter in the NFL. He went 18 of 27 for 126 with a touchdown and no interceptions and an 89.4 passer rating. Now about this, Chris Olave attempted a pass that went for an interception. He did not record a passer rating, unfortunately. Leading rushers for New Orleans include Alvin Kamara, 15 carries, 70 yards, and a 4.7 average. And Kendre Miller, 11 carries, 65 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 5.9. Spencer Rattler added 6 carries, 49 yards, and an 8.2 average. Leading receivers for the Saints include Rashid Shaheed, 4 catches, 47 yards on 5 targets, and an 11.8 average. Jawan Johnson, 3 receptions, 28 yards on 3 targets, and a 9.3 average. Brendan Cooks, 3 catches, 22 yards on 4 targets, and a 7.3. And Chris Olave, I mentioned he threw an interception in this game. He also caught a few passes, 3 to be exact, for 20 yards and a touchdown on 6 targets and a 6.7 average. Blake Grupe, 2 for 2 on field goals, long field goal of 54, 1 of 1 on extra points. And Kai Kroger, rookie punter from South Carolina, 3 punts averaging 47.3, long punt of 49, 1 touchback, and 2 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Saints include Kool-Aid McKinstry with 7 solo tackles, Demario Davis with 7 total tackles, Carl Granderson, 5 solo tackles and a sack, Jonas Sinker, 5 tackles, 3 passes defense, and an interception. Quincy Riley with 4 solo tackles. Cameron Jordan with 4 solo tackles plus a sack. And Brian Breezy had 3 tackles and a sack. Total yards, Buffalo 356, New Orleans 298. Passing yards favored the Bills 191 to 109. Rush yards favored the Saints 189 to 165. So really both teams ran the ball well in this game. 22 first downs for the Saints versus 20 first downs for the Bills. All right. Third downs, New Orleans was 5 of 13. Buffalo was 3 of 10. And on fourth downs, 0 for 2 for New Orleans and 0 for 1 for Buffalo. 4 penalties, 41 yards for the Saints, 3 sacks taken for 17, no lost fumbles, and 1 interception thrown. 11 penalties, 55 yards for the Bills, 3 sacks taken for 18, also with no lost fumbles and 1 interception thrown. Time of possession, 31 minutes, 21 seconds for the Bills, 28 minutes, 39 seconds for the Saints. Closing line was Buffalo minus 14.5. And the over-under was 49. Again, this is my lock of the week. I am perfect straight up with my lock of the week, but I'm only 1-3 against the spread with these locks, unfortunately. Because I picked Buffalo to win and to cover. I at least got the straight up pick going to 4-2, but I dropped the 3-3 in my spread picks. From our lock of the week to the game of the week. As the Philadelphia Eagles got off to a hot start, then kind of cooled off in the second half, but held on to defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-25. Philadelphia joins Buffalo as the lone unbeatens remaining in the NFL through 4 weeks, as the Eagles improved to 4-0. Tampa Bay, meanwhile, drops from the ranks of the unbeaten down to 3-1. We'll begin with individual numbers first for the Eagles, starting with Jalen Hurts. 15-24, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 104.5 QB rating. He was also the team's leading rusher, 9 carries, 62 yards, and a 6.9 average. Saquon Barkley still missing in action, 19 carries, 43 yards, and a touchdown, averaging just 2.3 per rush. And A.J. Dillon, 3 carries, 17 yards, and a 5.7 average. Leading receivers for Philly include Dallas Goedert, 4 catches, 37 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 4 targets and a 9.3 average. Saquon Barkley, 4 catches, 31 yards, 4 targets, and a 7.8 average. Devontae Smith, 2 catches, 29 yards on 2 targets and a 14.5 average. As for A.J. Brown, another quiet game. 2 catches, 7 yards on 9 targets, and a 3.5 average. He took the social media complaining about his usage in the offense, and it kind of made headlines this week. Jake Elliott, 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 39, and 4 for 4 on extra points. Braden Mann, 7 punts, averaging 51.9, long punt of 63 with 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Eagles include Cooper DeJean, 9 tackles and 2 passes defensed. Zach Bond, 8 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Texas rookie Andrew Makuba with 6 tackles. Quinyon Mitchell, 5 tackles and 5 passes defensed. Yes, that says 5. Reed Blankenship, 4 solo tackles and 2 passes defensed. Keely Ringo, 4 solo tackles and a pass defensed. And Jahad Campbell, another one of our rookies, out of the University of Alabama. He had 4 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. E-Money, what's poppin'? He says Eagles 56, Broncos 17. I'd love to see it, but we got to get our offense going. We can't just be putting up just 200, 250 yards every single week. That's not going to continue to beat teams. We got to get those yards up, that's for sure, and get our playmakers more involved. For the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, just his 2nd career loss against the Eagles in 6 starts, 22 of 40 for 289 yards with 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and an 84.3 QB rating. Leading rusher was Bucky Irving, 15 carries, 63 yards, and a 4.2 rush average. He also led the team in receiving. 5 catches, 102, and a touchdown on 5 targets with a 20.4 average. Emeka Egbuka had 4 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets and a 25.3 average. By the way, that touchdown by Egbuka went for 77 yards. Then you got Rashad White, 4 catches, 29 yards on 5 targets and a 7.3 average. And Chris Godwin, 3 catches, 26 yards, 10 targets, and an 8.7 average. Chase McLaughlin, 3 for 3 on field goals, long of 65, and 2 for 2 on extra points. And Riley Dixon, 3 punts, averaging 36.7, long punt of 52. And he did have 1 block, which was returned for the game's first touchdown. All right, leading tacklers for Tampa include Tyke Smith with 9 tackles and 2 passes defense. Savaka Dennis with 8 tackles. 4 tackles apiece from Antoine Winfield Jr. and Hassan Reddick, who also added a pass defense. And Zach McCollum had 4, or rather Zion McCollum, I should say, had 4 solo tackles. Total yards, Tampa Bay 376, Philly 200. Again, we got to get these yards up if we want to compete. Passing yards, 272 to 112 for the Buccaneers. Rush yards also favored Tampa Bay, 104 to 88. The Bucs had 18 first downs. The Eagles had 16. Third downs are 5 for 14 for Philly, 3 for 13 for Tampa. Fourth downs, Eagles 0 for 1, Bucs 1 for 3. 8 penalties, 83 yards for the Eagles, 2 sacks taken for 18, no lost fumbles and no interceptions thrown. 5 penalties, 40 yards for the Buccaneers, 2 sacks taken for 17, with 1 lost fumble and 1 interception thrown. Time of possession favored the Bucs, 31 minutes 52 seconds versus 28 minutes and 8 seconds for the Eagles. Closing line was Philadelphia minus 3.5, and the over-under was 44. I actually went against my team and took Tampa to win and to cover. I'm kind of glad either way that I took Tampa Bay to win and they didn't, and that my Eagles won instead. So that's good. However, my records will suffer for that. 4-3 straight up, 3-4 against the spread. And then the next game up, you've got the Houston Texans offense finally coming alive after 3 subpar weeks. They would shut out Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans 26-0 as Houston finally gets its first win of 2025, moving to 1-3, while Tennessee sits at the bottom of the AFC South by themselves at 0-4. We'll talk about Cam Ward in a moment, but first, individual numbers for the Texans. C.J. Stroud, 22 of 28, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 125.2 passer rating. And what is easily his best game of the season to this point. He also carried the ball 4 times for 11 yards and a 2.8 average. Leading rushers for the Texans include Woody Marks, 17 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 4.1. And Nick Chubb, 13 carries, 47 yards, and a 3.6 average. Leading receivers for Houston include Nico Collins, 4 catches, 79 yards on 6 targets, and a 19.8 average. Woody Marks had 4 catches, 50 yards, and a receiving touchdown on 5 targets, and a 12.5 average. Dalton Schultz, 5 catches, 30 yards on 6 targets. He averaged 6 per catch. And Jaden Higgins, rookie receiver from Iowa State, 1 catch, 1 target, 24 yards, 1 touchdown. Pretty much straightforward. Kaimi Fairbairn, 2 for 3 on field goals, long of 47, and 2 for 2 on extra points. Tommy Townsend, 3 punts, averaging 44, long punt of 64, with 2 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Texans, looks like 5 is the most. That would be Kamari Lassiter with 5 tackles and 2 passes defense, and Henry To'oTo'o with 5 tackles as well. Jalen Petrie had 4 tackles. MJ Stewart also with 4 tackles plus a pass defense. Danielle Hunter, 4 tackles and 2 sacks. EJ Speed with 4 tackles. And Azeez Al-Shaair, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Derek Stingley had 2 solo tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. As for the Texans, numbers are not pretty, folks. Cam Ward continues to struggle in his rookie season. 10 of 26 for 108 yards with no touchdowns and 1 interception. He had a 35.4 QB rating. Yeah, not good. Leading rusher was Tony Pollard. 14 carries, 64 yards, and a 4.6 average. Leading receivers include Alec Manor, 2 catches, 44 yards, 7 targets, easy for me to say, and a 22 average. Sorry about that, guys. This has been a very long day. Calvin Ridley, 2 catches, 30 yards on 3 targets, and an average of 15. And Tony Pollard, we just talked about him. He added 3 catches for 12 yards on 3 targets and a 4 average. Joey Slye, 0 for 2 for field goals, and that's it. Johnny Hekker, 5 punts, averaging 42.6, long punt of 50, with 2 inside the 20-yard line. All right, leading tacklers for Tennessee include Cedric Gray. He had 17 tackles, 10 solo, and 7 assisted tackles. That's 17 tackles. Cody Barton had 9 tackles, and no other Texan had more than 5. That includes Jeffrey Simmons, who also added a sack with his 5 tackles. Amani Hooker also had 5 tackles. Jalen Armour Davis had 5 tackles. Likewise for Roger McCrary and Quandre Diggs, who also added a pass defense for Tennessee. Total yards, Texans 353, Titans 175. Passing yards 224 to 93 for Houston. Rush yards also favored Houston, 129 to 82. The Texans had double the first downs as the Titans did, 20 to 10. Tennessee was 2 of 11 on 3rd down, 0 for 1 on 4th down, while Houston was 6 of 15 on 3rd down and a perfect 4 for 4, or rather 3 for 3 on 4th down. 4 penalties, 35 yards for the Titans, 2 sacks taken for 15, no lost fumbles, and 1 interception throw. 6 penalties, 50 yards for the Texans, 2 sacks taken for 9 yards, no lost fumbles, and no interception thrown. Houston is in ball hawk territory. They had the ball for 38 minutes, 21 seconds, while the Titans just 21 minutes and 39 seconds. Closing line was Houston -7. Over-under was 40. I took the Texans to win, but I did take Tennessee to cover because I expected the Titans to put up a little bit of a fight. That came back to burn me. My straight-up record is now 5-3, while my ATS record is 3-5. If you're just joining me late, this is the week that was, as we're taking a look at the team and player stats from week number 4 in the NFL. And coming up after these last 8 games on the schedule are my week 5 power rankings. So stick around. And again, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. Okay, let's continue with the last of these early afternoon games on Sunday. It sees the Atlanta Falcons defeat the Washington Commanders 34-27. Of course, Washington did not have quarterback Jaden Daniels, or wide receiver Terry McLaurin. Alright, so both teams are now 2-2 as Atlanta gets the win and Washington suffers the defeat. We'll start with individual numbers first up for the Falcons, and probably one of the best games, if not the best game, in the career of Michael Penix Jr. 20 of 26, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 126 QB rating. Those are some pretty good numbers. Speaking of pretty good numbers, your leading rushers are Bijan Robinson, 17 carries, 75 yards, and a touchdown at a 4.4 clip. And Tyler Algier, 16 for 51 and a touchdown, averaging 3.2. Leading receivers for the Falcons include Drake London, 8 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets, average of 13.8. Bijan Robinson, in addition to his 75 rush yards, put up 106 on 4 receptions and 5 targets with a 26.5 average. And Kyle Pitts also got into the act. 5 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets and an average of 14. Parker Romo, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 38. 4 for 4 on extra points. Bradley Pinion with just 2 punts, averaging 46. Longest punt was 48, with 1 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Falcons include Jesse Bates III with 7 tackles. D. Alford with 5 tackles and a forced fumble. Mike Hughes, 4 solo tackles and a pass defense. Caden Ellis, 5 tackles and half a sack. Billy Bowman Jr., 3 tackles and a forced fumble. Xavier Watts, 6 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Divine Diablo, he had 5 tackles and a pass defense. David Onyemata, 4 tackles, and Leonard Floyd, 4 tackles and half a sack. For the Commanders, who are missing many of their stars, including Daniels and McLaurin, they have Marcus Mariota under center for a second week in a row. He went 16 of 27 for 156 yards with 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and an 84.8 QB rating. Leading rushers include Chris Rodriguez Jr., 7 carries, 59 yards, and an 8.4 average. And Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, 7 carries, 47 yards, and a 6.7 average. Leading receivers for Washington include Deebo Samuel, 6 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets. He averaged 12 per catch. Zach Ertz, 2 catches, 21 yards on 4 targets. And Luke McCaffrey, younger brother of Christian McCaffrey. He had 2 catches, 21 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets. Both Ertz and McCaffrey averaged 10.5 yards per grab. Matt Gay, 4 for 4 on field goals, long of 52, 1 of 1 on extra points. Tress Way, 2 punts, averaging 44.5, long punt of 47. Leading tacklers for the Commanders include Bobby Wagner with 10 tackles, Frankie Louvu with 8 tackles and a sack, Jeremy Reeves also with 8 tackles, Marshawn Lattimore 6 tackles, and Mike Sanderstil with 7 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Total yards, 435 for the Falcons, 294 for the Commanders. Passing yards favored Atlanta, 307 to 147. Rush yards favored Washington, 147 to 128. The Falcons had 24 first downs versus 17 for the Commanders. Late downs have been a problem for Washington, especially in this game. They went 1 for 8 on third down, but a perfect 2 for 2 on fourth down. Atlanta, meanwhile, 6 of 12 on third down, 1 for 1 on fourth down. 6 penalties, 50 yards for the Commanders, 2 sacks taken for 9, no lost fumbles, 1 interception thrown. 5 penalties, 45 yards for the Falcons, 1 sack taken for 6, no lost fumbles, 1 interception thrown as well. Time of possession, 34 minutes, 15 seconds, nearly put the Falcons in ball hawk country for the third time in 4 weeks. The Commanders had the ball, meanwhile, for 25 minutes and 45 seconds. Closing line was Atlanta -3. Over-under was 43.5. I did pick Washington to win and to cover, even without Daniels and McLaurin, and I got burned both ways. My straight-up record drops to 5-4, while my spread picks are now 3-6. So yeah, I have been struggling with the spread picks all season long. And that's going to continue over the 4 o'clock games. Starting off with the Los Angeles Rams defeating the Indianapolis Colts 27-20. Both teams are now 3-1 after LA's victory. We'll start with individual numbers for the Rams, starting with Matthew Stafford. 29 of 41, 375 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 123.5 QB rating. Leading rusher was Kyren Williams, 13 carries, 77 yards, and a 5.9 average. My offensive player of the week is Puka Nacua. He had a monster game. 13 catches for 170 and a touchdown on 15 targets. He averaged 13.1 per catch. Tutu Atwell, he scored the game-winning touchdown in this one. His one reception went for 88 yards and that touchdown. And he was only targeted twice the entire day. Devontae Adams, 4 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets, averaging 14. Joshua Carty, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 42, 3 of 3 on extra points. Ethan Evans, 4 punts, averaging 52.8, long punt of 68, 3 punts inside the 20. Leading tacklers for the Rams include Quentin Lake with 9 tackles, Jarrett Burst 6 tackles, a sack and a forced fumble, Cam Curl 9 tackles, 3 passes defensed, and 2 interceptions, Omar Spates 7 tackles, and Nick Landman with 6 tackles and a pass defensed. For the previously unbeaten Colts, Daniel Jones, his first loss as Indy starter, 24-33, 262 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and an 80.6 QB rating. Now keep in mind, the Indianapolis Colts did not turn the ball over in any of their first 3 games. They ended up turning it over 3 times on Sunday. Leading rusher was Jonathan Taylor, 17 carries, 76 yards, and a 4.5 average. Rookie tight end Tyler Warren also with a rushing touchdown for Indianapolis. Leading receivers for the Colts include Adonai Mitchell, 3 catches, 96 yards on 4 targets, and a 32 average. He had a 76-yard touchdown reception taken off the board after he fumbled the ball in the end zone. Yeah, that hurts. The aforementioned Tyler Warren had 5 catches, 70 yards on 6 targets, and a 14 average. And Michael Pittman Jr. had 5 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets and an 8.2 average. Spencer Schrader, 2 for 2 on field goals, long attempt 52, and 2 for 2 on extra points. Sorry about that. Rigoberto Sanchez, 4 punts averaging 52.3, long punt of 56, with 2 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Colts include Nick Cross with 14 tackles and half a sack. Xavier Howard, 6 tackles. DeForest Buckner, 8 tackles. Cam Bynum, 7 tackles. Mekhi Blackman, 5 tackles and a sack. And Laiatu Latu with 4 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Total yards, Rams 462, Colts 333. Passing and rushing yards both favored LA. 360 passing yards to 248 and 102 rushing yards to 85. 24 first downs for LA, 17 for Indianapolis. Both teams were 4 for 12 on third down. Indy finished 1 for 1 on fourth down, while the Rams were 1 for 2. 11 penalties, 88 yards for the Colts, 2 sacks taken for 14, 1 lost fumble, and 2 interceptions thrown. 7 penalties, 63 yards for the Rams, 3 sacks taken for 15, 1 lost fumble, and no interceptions thrown. Time of possession, 31 minutes, 44 seconds for the Rams, 28 minutes, 16 seconds for the Colts. Closing line was LA minus 3.5. Over-under was 49.5, and they came very close to that total. For some odd reason, I took the Colts to win, the Colts to cover as well, and got burned again. So now my straight-up record is 5-5. My ATS record through 10 games is 3-7. And the hits just keep on coming because the San Francisco 49ers snapped a 5-game winning streak to the Jacksonville Jaguars, losing 26-21. As both teams moved, to 3-1. We'll start with individual numbers first for the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, okay game, not great. 21 of 31, 174 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and a 92.7 QB rating. Travis Etienne Jr. was the leading rusher for Jacksonville. 19 carries, 124 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 6.5 per run. Leading receivers include Brian Thomas Jr., 5 catches, 49 yards on 7 targets, and a 9.8 average. Brenton Strange, 6 catches, 45 yards on 7 targets, and a 7.5 average. Rookie Travis Hunter, 3 catches, 42 yards on 5 targets, and a 14 average. And Hunter Long, 3 catches, 23 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets, and a 7.7 average. Cam Little, 2 for 3 on field goals, long attempt 44, 2 for 2 on extra points. Logan Cook, 5 punts, averaging 47.4, long punt of 58, with 2 touchbacks and 1 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Jaguars include Tyson Campbell with 9 tackles, Devin Lloyd with 8 tackles, 2 passes defensed, and 2 interceptions. Andrew Wingard, 5 tackles and a pass defense. Dennis Gardeck, 3 solo tackles and a forced fumble. Foye Oluokun had 7 tackles and a forced fumble. And Eric Armstead, playing against his former team for the first time, had 2 solo tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. For the 49ers, Brock Purdy was 22 of 38 for 309 with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions and a 79.5 QB rating. And he has a turf toe injury and did not practice today. As I'm recording, it would be Tuesday. Leading rusher was Christian McCaffrey, but he was pretty much held in check. 17 carries for 49 yards and a 2.9 average, but he did lead the team in receiving. 6 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown on 11 targets. He averaged 15.3 per catch. Here's a name you never heard before, Jake Tonjes. 3 catches, 58 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets. Ricky Pearsall, 4 for 46 on 5 targets and 11.5 average. And Kyle Juszczyk, that's Juszczyk. 3 catches, 32 yards on 3 targets and a 10.7 average. Eddie Pinheiro, 2 for 2 on field goals. Longa, 26, 1 for 1 on extra points. Thomas Morstead, 2 punts, averaging 45.5. Long punt of 51. Leading tacklers for the San Francisco 49ers include D. Winters with 10 tackles and a pass defense. Fred Warner with 8 tackles and a forced fumble. Marquise Siegel, 8 tackles and a pass defense. Diamador Lenore with 6 tackles. Darrell Luter Jr. with 5 tackles. And Jason Pinnock with 6 tackles. Total yards, 389 for the 49ers, 325 for the Jaguars. Passing yards favored San Francisco, 306 to 174. Rush yards favored Jacksonville, 151 to 83. 22 first downs for the 49ers, 18 for the Jaguars. Jacksonville, 4 of 14 on 3rd down, 1 for 1 on 4th down. San Francisco, 8 of 13 on 3rd down, 0 for 1 on 4th down. 12 penalties, 90 yards for the Jaguars. No sacks taken, no lost fumbles, and no interceptions thrown. 5 penalties, 54 yards for the 49ers. 1 sack taken for 3, 2 lost fumbles, and 2 interceptions thrown. Time of possession, 32 minutes, 31 seconds for the Jags. 27 minutes, 29 seconds for the Bang Bang Niner game. Closing line was San Francisco -3, over under 46. They just caught that total by a single point. I took the Niners to win, the Niners to cover. But unfortunately, like I said, their 5-game win streak against Jacksonville is over. Straight up record is under 500 at 5-6. Spread picks, much worse than that at 3-8. Alright, the quarterback matchup of the day saw Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs make it back-to-back wins after an 0-2 start after defeating Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens 37-20. And yes, Lamar did get hurt in this game. More on that shortly. We'll start with individual numbers first for the reigning AFC champion Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, 25 of 37. 270 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 124.8 QB rating. Okay. Let's see. Xavier Worthy was back after suffering that injured shoulder. He had 2 carries, 38 yards to 19 average. Isaiah Pacheco held 7 carries, 35 yards, and a 5 average. And Kareem Hunt had 13 carries, 34 yards, and a 2.6 average. Leading receivers for KC include Xavier Worthy. We just talked about him. 5 catches, 83 yards on 8 targets, and a 16.6 average. Travis Kelce, 5 catches, 48 yards on 5 targets. and a 9.6 average. Marquise Hollywood Brown, 3 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets, and a 12.7 average. Juju Smith-Schuster, 4 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets, and an average of 9. Isaiah Pacheco and Tyquan Thornton also added touchdown receptions for Kansas City. Harrison Butker, 3 for 4 on field goals, long of 38, 4 for 4 on extra points. Matt Araiza, just 1 punt for 37 yards, and it landed inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Chiefs include Drew Tranquill, 7 tackles, Trent McDuffie, 5 solo tackles, and a pass defense. Shamari Connor, 6 tackles. Leo Chenal, 4 solo tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Noel Williams, 3 tackles and a pass defense. And George Karlaftis with 2 solo tackles and a sack. For the Ravens, Lamar Jackson started the game. He was 14 of 20 for 147 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 interception and an 86.9 passer rating. He would leave this game early with a hamstring and is likely to miss next week's game against the Houston Texans. Jackson adds, per one of his sources, that given, quote, the nature of the injury, he also could be out for up to 2 to 3 weeks, end quote. Baltimore's bye week falls in week 7, but it sounds like Jackson-reliant fantasy managers, well, I'm not going to continue to read that because it just cuts it off there. Anyway, Cooper Rush came in for Jackson and went 9 of 13 for 52 yards with no touchdowns or interceptions and a 76.4 QB rating. Leading rusher was Justice Hill, 3 carries, 76 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 25.3. Lamar Jackson added 6 carries, 48 yards, and an 8 average before being injured. And Derrick Henry, struggles continue for him, just 8 carries, 42 yards, and a 5.3 average. Leading receivers for Baltimore include Zay Flowers, 7 catches, 74 yards on 8 targets, and a 10.6 average. All right, we can back out of that. The aforementioned Justice Hill had 5 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets, and an 8.2 average. And Mark Andrews had 7 catches, 30 yards on 8 targets, and a 4.3 average. Tyler Loop, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 43, and 2 for 2 on extra points. Jordan Stout with just 1 punt for 50 yards. Leading tacklers for the Ravens include Kyle Hamilton with 8 tackles. Teddy Buchanan had 7 tackles. Odafe Oweh had 5 tackles, as did Keon Martin. Marlon Humphrey with 5 solo tackles. All right, total yards, 382 for the Chiefs and 360 for the Ravens. Passing yards favored Kansas City, 264 to 194. Rush yards favored Baltimore, 166 to 118. The Chiefs had 24 first downs, while the Ravens had 18. Baltimore was 3 of 10 on 3rd down and 1 for 4 on 4th down. KC was 5 for 15 on 3rd down and a perfect 4 for 4 on 4th down. 6 penalties, 56 yards for the Ravens, 3 sacks taken for 5, 1 lost fumble, and 1 interception. 5 penalties, 40 yards for the Chiefs, 1 sack taken for 6, no lost fumbles, and no interceptions thrown. The Chiefs nearly got into ball hawk territory, possessing the ball for 34 minutes 45 seconds, while the Ravens possessed for 25 minutes 15 seconds. Closing line was Baltimore minus 2.5, and the over-under is 49. I took the Ravens to win and to cover, but unfortunately, they got blown out. 5-7 straight up and 3-9 ATS. Oh, and by the way, Patrick Mahomes' all-time against Baltimore is now 6-1. Next up, the Chicago Bears get a dramatic win in Las Vegas against the Raiders 25-24. As the Bears moved to 2-2 on the season and the Raiders dropped to 1-3. We'll begin with individual numbers, starting off for the Bears. Caleb Williams, 22 of 37, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 73.3 QB rating. Leading rusher was DeAndre Swift, 14 carries, 38 yards, and a touchdown, just 2.7 per run. And your leading receivers for the Bears include Rome Odunze, 4 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown on 8 targets, averaging 17.3. Cole Kmet, 3 catches, 46 yards on 9 targets, and a 15.3 average. Olamide Zaccheaus, 5 catches, 41 yards on 6 targets, and an 8.2 average. DJ Moore, 4 catches, 38 yards on 5 targets, and a 9.5 average. And DeAndre Swift, 4 catches, 22 yards on 6 targets, and a 5.5 average. Cairo Santos, 4 for 4 on field goals, long of 52, 1 for 1 on extra points. Torrey Taylor, 3 punts, averaging 49.3, long punt of 62, 1 touchback, and 1 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for Chicago include Tremaine Edmonds with 11 tackles. Kevin Byard III, 7 tackles, 2 passes defensed, and 2 interceptions. Tyreek Stevenson, 6 tackles, 2 passes defensed, and an interception. Nahshon Wright, 4 solo tackles. And Noah Sewell, 5 tackles and a forced fumble. For the Raiders, Geno Smith, bad game for him. 14 of 21, 117, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He had a QB rating of 73. Best game in the young career of Ashton Jeanty, 21 carries, 138 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 6.6. He also got into the receiving game, 2 catches, 17 yards, 2 targets, both for touchdowns. He averaged 8.5. Raheem Mostert, 4 carries, 62 yards, and a 15.5 average. As for the remainder of the Raiders receivers, Brock Bowers, 5 catches, 46 yards on 6 targets, 9.2 average. And Jacoby Myers, 4 catches, 30 yards on 7 targets, and a 7.5 average. Daniel Carlson, 1 for 2 on field goals, long of 29. Of course, what would have been the potential game winner for Las Vegas was blocked in the closing seconds. His long attempt was 29. 3 for 3 on extra points. AJ Cole, only 1 punt, and it was a good one for 60 yards. Leading tacklers for the Raiders include Devin White, with 9 tackles and a pass defense. Mad Max Crosby, 5 solo tackles, a forced fumble, 3 passes defensed, and 1 interception. Q Blue Kelly with 6 tackles. Jamal Adams, 4 solo tackles, and Jeremy Chin with 7 tackles. Total yards, Raiders 357, Bears 271. Passing yards favored Chicago, 202 to 117. Rush yards favored Las Vegas, 240 to 69, including 138 from Ashton Jeanty. 17 first downs for the Raiders, 16 for the Bears. Chicago was 7 of 16 on third down, 1 for 1 on fourth down. And Vegas was 2 of 8 on third down, which is bad, and 0 for 1 on fourth down. 8 penalties, 60 yards for the Bears, 1 sack taken for 10, no lost fumbles, 1 interception thrown. 5 penalties, 36 yards for the Raiders, no sacks taken, 1 lost fumble, and 3 interceptions thrown. Time of possession, 33 minutes, 10 seconds for the Bears, 26 minutes, 50 seconds for the Raiders. Closing line was Las Vegas minus 2.5. Over under was 47.5. And yes, you guessed it. I took the Raiders to win and to cover. And of course, lost. So now my straight up record is a terrible 5-8. My spread record is an even terrible 3-10. But it looks like things are about to turn around here as we move into Sunday Night Football. And this was a pretty big game as Micah Parsons, who the Cowboys traded to the Packers a week before the season, returned to AT&T Stadium. Well, it looks like neither defense wanted to play in this one, as this game finished with the Dallas Cowboys in a 40-40 tie. It is the second largest tie game in NFL history. A definite scoregami here. With the tie, the Packers go to 2-1-1, while the Cowboys go to 1-2-1. We'll start with individual numbers first up for the Packers. Jordan Love, pretty good game. 31 of 43 for 337 yards with 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 118.1 QB rating. Leading rusher for the Packers is Josh Jacobs, 22 for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns and a 3.9 average. Top receivers for the Packers include Josh Jacobs, 4 catches, 71 yards on 4 targets and a 17.8 average. Romeo Doubs, monster game. Only 6 catches for 58 yards, but he has 3 touchdowns on his 8 targets and a 9.7 average. Matthew Golden. This is the rookie from Texas. He had 5 catches, 58 yards on 6 targets and an average of 11.6. Tucker Kraft, 5 catches, 56 yards on 5 targets and an 11.2 average. Emmanuel Wilson, 3 catches, 37 yards, 3 targets, and a 12.3 average. Savion Williams, 3 catches, 22 yards on 3 targets. And Dontavian Wicks, 2 catches, 19 yards on 4 targets, and a 9.5 average. Brandon McManus, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 53, 4 of 5 on extra points. And Daniel Whelan with 2 punts, averaging 41.5, long punt of 43, both inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for Green Bay include Quay Walker with 11 tackles, Evan Williams with 10 tackles, Adrian Cooper 7 tackles and a pass defense, Keyshawn Nixon with 4 solo tackles and 2 passes defense, and Xavier McKinney with 7 tackles. If you're wondering about Micah Parsons in his first game back in Dallas, he had 3 tackles and a sack. For Micah Parsons' old team, the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, very impressive as well. 31 of 40 for 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 124.9 QB rating. Leading rusher for the Cowboys is Javonte Williams, 20 carries, 85 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 4.3. Leading receivers include George Pickens, 8 catches, 134, and 2 touchdowns on 11 targets, average 16.8. Jalen Tolbert, 4 catches, 61 yards on 6 targets, and a 15.3 average. Jake Ferguson, 7 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets. And Cavante Turpin, 3 catches, 30 yards on 4 targets, and a 10 average. Brandon Aubrey, 1 for 1 on field goals. Longo 22, that was in overtime. And 5 for 5 on extra points. Brian Anger, 4 punts, averaging 47.5, long punt of 51, with 1 inside the 20. Alright, leading tacklers for the Cowboys include Jack Sanborn, with 11 tackles and a pass defense. Reddy Stewart, with 6 solo tackles. Donovan Wilson, with 6 total tackles. Kenneth Murray Jr. with 8 tackles. Deron Bland with 5 tackles. And Donovan Ezaraku with 5 tackles. And Osa Odigizua with 6 tackles for the boys. Total yards, Green Bay 489, Dallas 436. Passing yards, 325 to 319 in favor of the Packers. Rush yards are 164 to 117, also in favor of the Cheeseheads. 32 first downs for the Packers, 26 for the Cowboys. Green Bay was 10 of 14 on third down. Dallas was 4 of 11. Both teams were 1 for 1 on fourth down. 7 penalties, 53 yards for the Packers. 1 sack taken for 12. 1 lost fumble, no interceptions thrown. 11 penalties, 95 yards for the Cowboys. 1 sack taken for no loss. No lost fumbles and no interceptions thrown. Even in overtime, a team can get to ball hawk territory, and that's exactly what the Green Bay Packers did at 35 minutes, 33 seconds, while the Cowboys came close themselves at 34 minutes and 27 seconds. Closing line was Green Bay minus 6.5, and the over-under was 46.5. So I picked Green Bay to win and to cover, but since the game finished tied, I am now 5-8-1 in my straight up picks, 3-10-1 on my spread picks. And that brings us to the Monday night doubleheader. The first game sees the Miami Dolphins beat the New York Jets 27-21. As Mike McDaniel's squad gets their first win of the season. They are now 1-3, and the Jets are still searching for answers at 0-4. We'll start with individual numbers. First up for the Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, 17-25, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 114.9 QB rating. Leading rusher for Miami was Devin Achane, 20 carries, 99 yards, and a touchdown, and a 4.9 average. Leading receivers for the Dolphins include Tyreek Hill, 6 catches, 67 yards on 6 targets, averaging 11.2 per catch. However, he would leave this game early in the third quarter with both a torn ACL and a dislocated knee. And it's quite obvious that the Cheetah will be out for the rest of 2025. But according to Angel Drew Rosenhaus, Tyreek Hill's realistic goal is to be ready for the start of the 2026 season. So this is a major loss for this Miami offense. Other receivers include Jalen Waddle, who will now have to step up in Hill's absence. 3 catches, 48 yards on 6 targets, and a 16 average. And Darren Waller, fresh out of retirement with 3 catches, 27 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 4 targets. He only averaged 9 yards per catch. Riley Patterson, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 47, 3 for 3 on extra points. Jake Bailey, 4 punts, averaging 40, I almost said 46, it says 48. Long punt of 64 with 3 of his 4 punts inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Dolphins include Jordan Brooks with 18 tackles. That's right, 18. That includes 15 solo tackles. Tyrell Dodson with 9 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Zach Sealer, 5 tackles. Ashton Davis, 4 tackles. And Rasul Douglas, 3 tackles, a sack, and 2 passes defensed. For the Jets, Justin Fields returning after a 1-week stint out with a concussion. Threw 20 of 27 for 226 with a touchdown, no interceptions, and a 111 QB rating. He was also the Jets' leading rusher, 7 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 11.6. Breece Hall ran 14 times for 81 yards and a 5.8 average. And then Braylon Allen, 4 carries, 26 yards, and a 6.5 average. I think he got hurt in this game, and he is likely out for the season as well, which sucks. Leading receivers for the Jets include Garrett Wilson, 6 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown on 8 targets, and a 13.7 average. Now, he did have a touchdown catch taken off the board in the 4th quarter because of offensive pass interference. I didn't see anything that suggested that he interfered with the defender. Just saying, in my opinion. Mason Taylor, 5 catches, 65 yards on 7 targets, averaging 13. And Breece Hall, 5 catches, 30 yards on 6 targets, averaging 6 per catch. The ageless Nick Folk, 2 for 2 on field goals, long of 58, 1 for 1 on field goal or extra points. And then Austin McNamara, 2 punts averaging 42, long punt of 43, 1 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Jets include Isaiah Oliver with 9 tackles, Brandon Stevens with 8 tackles in the pass defense, and Andre Sisco also with 8 tackles. Total yards, 404 for the Jets, 300 exactly for the Dolphins. Passing yards, 207 to 177 in favor of the Jets. Rushing is 197 to 123, also in favor of the Jets. They had 23 first downs versus 19 for the Dolphins. New York, 4 of 9 on 3rd down, 1 of 2 on 4th down. And Miami, 4 of 12 on 3rd down, 1 of 1 on 4th down. 13 penalties, 101 yards for the Jets, 2 sacks taken for 19. How about 3 fumbles lost and no interceptions thrown? 6 penalties, 40 yards for the Dolphins, no sacks taken, no lost fumbles, and no interceptions thrown as well. Time of possession, 30 minutes, 48 seconds for the Dolphins, 29 minutes, 12 seconds for the Jets. Closing line was Miami minus 2.5, and the over-under is 43.5. I took the Dolphins to win straight up and to cover the 3 points. They won by 6. So now I'm 6-8-1 in my straight up picks, 4-10-1 in my spread picks. The last game of the week saw the Denver Broncos finally wake up and defeat the Cincinnati Bengals 28-3. And this is after losing back-to-back games on last-second field goals. First against the Colts in week 2, and then last week against the Chargers. The Broncos are now 2-2, as are the Bengals. Let's start with individual numbers first for the home team, beginning with Bo Nix. 29 of 42, 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 97.9 QB rating. Leading rushers include J.K. Dobbins, 16 carries, 101 yards, and a 6.3 average. And R.J. Harvey, 14 carries, 58 yards, on an average of 4.1. Bo Nix and Marvin Mims Jr. both scored rushing touchdowns for the Broncos. Leading receivers for Denver include Courtland Sutton. 5 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets, 16.2 average. Marvin Mims Jr., 6 catches, 69 on 6 targets, and an 11.5 average. Troy Franklin, 4 catches, 55 yards on 8 targets, and a 13.8 average. R.J. Harvey, 4 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets, 10 average. Adam Troutman, 2 catches, 32 yards on 3 targets, 16 average. And Evan Ingram, 4 catches, 29 yards on 7 targets, 7.3 average. Will Lutz, no field goals, 4 for 4 on extra points. And Australian-born punter Jeremy Crawshaw played collegiately at Florida. 4 punts, averaging 49.8, long punt of 62, 2 touchbacks, and 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Leading tacklers for the Broncos include Alex Singleton, led the way with 11 tackles. Nick Bonito, 3 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Jahdae Barron, 3 tackles. And Jaquan McMillan with 4 tackles. For the Bengals, Jake Browning, 14 of 25, 125 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 69.6 QB rating. Chase Brown was the leading rusher for the Bengals, 10 carries, 40 yards, and an average of 4. Leading receivers for Cincinnati include T. Higgins, 3 catches, 32 yards, 6 targets, and a 10.7 average. Chase Brown, 3 for 31 on 3 targets and a 10.3 average. And Jamar Chase held silent in this one, just 5 catches, 23 yards on 8 targets, and a 4.6 average. Evan McPherson, 1 for 1 on field goals, long of 26 with no extra points. Ryan Reckow with 8 punts, busy man, averaging 50.4, long punt of 69, 1 touchback, and 3 inside the 20. Leading tacklers for the Bengals include Demetrius Knight Jr. This is a rookie linebacker from South Carolina. 10 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Dax Hill with 9 tackles and a pass defense. Geno Stone with 10 tackles. And Jordan Battle also with 9 tackles. Total yards, 512, not a typo. 512 for the Broncos and 159 for the Bengals. Passing yards were 326 to 106 for Denver. Rush yards, 186 to 53 for Denver. How about these first downs? 29 for the Broncos, 9 for the Bengals. Cincinnati was 2 of 11 on 3rd down with no 4th downs. And Denver was 8 of 14 on 3rd down, 0 for 1 on 4th down. 11 penalties, 65 yards for the Bengals. 3 sacks taken for 19. No lost fumbles and no interceptions thrown. 7 penalties, 72 yards for the Broncos. No sacks taken, no lost fumbles, and 1 interception thrown. The Denver Broncos go into ball hawk territory. They held the ball for 37 minutes, 58 seconds, while for the Bengals, only 22 minutes and 2 seconds. Closing line was Denver -7, over-unders 44.5. I took Denver to win and Cincinnati to cover, but this was a blowout all the way through. So, for the week, I finished 7-8-1 in my straight up picks, and for the season I am now 39-24-1. As for my spread picks, which were bad once again, I went 4-11-1 for the week, and for the season 22-40-2. Ouch. So that's the recap. Now as we close things down here, let's take a look at the new power rankings for week 5. And there is no change at the very bottom with the Tennessee Titans at 0-4, sitting at number 32. They will face the Cardinals here in Arizona. Down one spot to number 31 are the New Orleans Saints, also 0-4. They host the Giants. As for New York's other team, the Jets, they drop to number 30 with a 0-4 record. They will face the Dallas Cowboys. Up a couple to number 29 are the Miami Dolphins at 1-3. They will try to make it 2 straight wins in a row as they visit Charlotte to play the Carolina Panthers. Down to number 28 are the Las Vegas Raiders at 1-3. They visit the Colts. Up to number 27 are the New York Giants at 1-3. They visit the Saints in New Orleans. Slipping to number 26 are the Cleveland Browns at 1-3. They will be the home team against the Minnesota Vikings in London. Also slipping to number 25 are the Carolina Panthers at 1-3. They will host the Miami Dolphins. Moving up a couple spots to number 24 are the Chicago Bears at 2-2. They are off this week. Down 4 spots to number 23 are the Cincinnati Bengals, also 2-2. They will host the Detroit Lions. Moving up a spot to number 22 are the New England Patriots at 2-2. They will face the Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football. Up 1 spot to number 21 are the Atlanta Falcons at also 2-2. They are off this week. Moving up 1 spot to number 20, you've got the Houston Texans at 1-3. They visit the Baltimore Ravens. Up to number 19 are the Dallas Cowboys at 1-1. They will face the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium. Down to number 18, you have the Minnesota Vikings at 2-2, staying overseas to play the Cleveland Browns in London. My biggest drop this week are the Baltimore Ravens, down 10 spots to number 17 with a 1-3 record. They will host the Houston Texans. Up 2 spots to number 16 are the Jacksonville Jaguars at 3-1. They'll host the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Slipping a spot to number 15 are the Arizona Cardinals at 2-2. They will host the Titans. Down to number 14 are the Indianapolis Colts at 3-1. They will host the Las Vegas Raiders. Up 2 spots to number 13, the Denver Broncos at 2-2 as they visit Philadelphia to play my Eagles this week. Up 4 spots to number 12 are the Pittsburgh Steelers at 3-1. They are off this week. Up 2 spots to number 11 are the Seattle Seahawks at 3-1. They will host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Down a spot to number 10 are the Washington Commanders at 2-2. They'll visit LA to play Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Up 3 spots to number 9 and looking like they're getting back on track are the Kansas City Chiefs at 2-2. They will visit Jacksonville on Monday night. Down to number 8 are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 3-1. They visit Seattle. The next 2 teams will be playing each other. Up to number 7 are the Los Angeles Rams at 3-1. And down to number 6 are the San Francisco 49ers, also 3-1. They will play at SoFi Stadium on Thursday night. Down to number 5 are the Los Angeles Chargers at 3-1. They will host the Washington Commanders. Moving up to number 4 are the Green Bay Packers at 2-1-1. They are off this week. My biggest jump in the power rankings goes to the Detroit Lions, up 5 spots to number 3 with a 3-1 record, and they visit Cincinnati. And the top 2 remain the same. The Philadelphia Eagles remain at number 2 with a 4-0 record as they host the Broncos. And the Buffalo Bills once again take the top spot with a 4-0 record. They will host the Patriots on Sunday night. And that is the Week 4 edition of the week that was, as we looked at team and player stats from all 16 games across Week 4 in the National Football League, and I gave you my Week 5 power rankings as well. I will be back tomorrow with a look at the college football polls and the Week 6 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game coming up this weekend. So join me tomorrow for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.